Aleric, 23 years old, multi-millionaire. He runs a company called Ad Outreach. He's built an amazing business. He's got a YouTube channel that has over 80 million views. Blows my mind, right? That's like how do you even get to that number? And he's going to explain his insights and his strategies for using YouTube, for using video, and how to do that. He's going to blow your mind with the tactics and the insights there. And so he's coming up next. So we'll come back top of the hour, and then we'll start on our last and our final session for the day. The world is transforming, and all of us have been stuck, and there's been lockdowns, and we've been at home, and there's so many things happening virtually, and a lot of people are like, well, how do I still get the outreach? And Aleric, it literally is. I looked around, I found everybody I could find that was the master at doing this, and he really is the top gun in this area. So I'm very excited to hear what he's got to say today. And I just wanted to highlight a few things, and if I get anything wrong, Aleric, you tell me. And we'll fix it, because my wife does that to me all the time. I get things wrong all the time. It's fine. So I know that when you were, if I remember right, when you were 12, you started this YouTube channel, and it was all about technology, apps, phone. I guess at the time it was iPods, right? Like, didn't you do stuff on iPods and minis and shuffles and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. iPod touches, early iPhones back in the day. Exactly.
Yeah, so it sounds cool, but you started that when you were 12, and then if I saw, I mean, again, I might have these numbers wrong, but if I saw you had like 80 or 90 million views now, is that close to the number, or where are you at right now?
Exactly, it's pushing over 100 million.
Oh my gosh,
on the channel, which is just crazy. So yeah, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, so there's like this many people on planet Earth that have YouTube channels that are pushing over 100 million views, and so. I want you guys, you, my listeners, everyone who's listening, I want you to note that, because that is an amazing accomplishment. And even more amazing is that's actually a side project that I think you probably spend 3, 4, or 5 hours a month in. And that's now just a side project. That's not even your main show. And that's doing over 100 million views. So that's mind blowing. It's very cool. But your main project right now is Ad Outreach. And really, I think most people would know you as the YouTube ads expert. And it's really funny, because one of the reasons why I tied into you is because literally I could not go anywhere on the internet without you coming up and talking to me and showing me your big screen. And, I was like, who is this guy? So I started asking around to circles I know, the Brendan Burchards and the Perry Marshalls and other big players in the world. I'm like, who is, like, this guy's just exploded on the scene. He's doing amazing stuff with YouTube ads and with that using that as a marketing channel. So anyway, I think I just wanted to say a couple of things here real quick, and then we'll dive in, because I don't want to take too much time here. But one of the things I thought was interesting is not just your amazing success. So obviously you've created incredible success with Ad Find and with Ad Outreach, or with App Find, excuse me, and then Ad Outreach. But I also started looking at testimonials, and again, I might get these numbers wrong, but I think in Ad Outreach, which is not, a simple little program, it's really targeted toward entrepreneurs, people who are advertising online. I think you've had over 10,000 or more. I don't know the exact number. I thought I saw a number of some 10, 15,000 people that have gone through the program. And then I started reading some of the testimonials. I loved, like, just a couple that stood out to me. One guy was out hiking. It looked like he was in Moab or somewhere in central Utah, out in the, and he had been out 3 weeks hiking, and he's like, yeah, I could be out here hiking for 3 weeks, just letting my business run itself, because I get a 3x return on my ads from Aleric has taught me. I was like, who gets 3x return on their ad spend? I mean, it's just amazing. Well, that was okay, but then I read the next one, and they're like, we get 5x. They're like competing with each other, like, oh, I get 5x return. And then there was one guy, and I forget his name. You were interviewing him in a hotel lobby. Maybe you remember this guy. He's got a big beard. Yeah. Ontario. What's his name?
Ahmad.
Ahmad. Yeah. And he was like, oh, the system's okay, but the problem is like, now I'm bringing in so many leads that I literally am losing money, because I don't have, it just exploded so fast. I don't have the time and the bandwidth to follow up and to set up all the appointments and to push everybody through my system, right? Exactly. Okay, well, who has that problem in the middle of pandemic? And I was like, okay, this is what Aleric's sweet spot is, and I really want to hear from him. So anyway, anything else I should be bragging on you about? Some of those things, just not only your successes, but how you've helped transform so many other lives was really impressive to me. So anything I missed there, buddy?
Well, thank you so much. And it really does. It means a lot. And that's what I love to do is, it's really all about the results that, our clients are getting, and, how seeing them be able to succeed, especially when it's on YouTube and it's a video, and they actually become, kind of like really the face of their brand, and people start recognizing them. So you gave the example of Ahmad, and obviously, he's hit record-breaking months, and has great returns. But the other cool thing is, he literally, after he started running his YouTube ads, he would get tapped on the shoulder. This was, kind of before, obviously, maybe not get tapped on the shoulder now, but it's like, I've seen you on YouTube, and so these people, it's so
you're saying when he was out and about, like just
when he was out and about,
that's awesome. Yeah.
And I've kind of, had several times the same thing happen, and we've had clients, but it's really actually really elevating them and having the audience really connect with them, because, we're going to talk obviously about the one thing in a second, but I'm just such a huge believer in video. I've always loved, video advertising. I remember, religiously watching all the Billy Mays, infomercials, commercials back in the day, recreating them. It's kind of like one of my, at least in terms of what he did on the infomercials, like childhood heroes. And so I think that it's just so amazing to be able to help, entrepreneurs be able to get in front of people, on video and on YouTube, and just be able to do that. So I think that's the huge thing. So I love it.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. So you sparked my thinking on two other things I wanted to brag about you on. So first one was, my audience tends to be mixed bag in terms of all of it. I mean, most people think that I'm much younger than I am. I think it's from having 11 children and running around with them all the time, but I'm almost 50. So I'm an old man. I'm way up in there in the age. But I think you're like, like 13, 14. I mean, you're a, no, I probably, you don't have to divulge your age, but I think you're in early to mid 20s or somewhere in that neighborhood. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm 23 now. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So what I want you guys to hear is that success in your business and transforming your life in your business literally has nothing to do with age, old, young, middle, in between. It's, it has to do with cause and effect and putting the right systems into place and using the right strategies and formulas. And so, like there's not a lot of people that I know that are running $1 million businesses at 23 years old, but nevertheless, what I'm saying there is that it doesn't matter. And actually two more things. One is, I love your humility and meekness. If you guys don't know, you can follow Aleric's stuff, but you're constantly putting out, these briefs and these updates about what's going on in your company. And the last one that I read was so genuine and humble about where you're at and some of the stuff that was going on in your head, and just kind of pulling yourself back down and be like, okay, I got to get more grounded and being focused and more grateful. And I won't spill the beans on it. If you haven't read it, go find his stuff. I think you posted that on your Facebook page. Do I remember that right?
Yeah, exactly. I posted that on my Facebook page. And I think I sent it to my email list as well. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's spectacular. And then the last thing I'll say is that if I remember right, you won the 2 Comma Club award with Russell Brunson. Do I remember that right? You got the big plaque. And for those of you who don't know, that is that's doing $1 million in a funnel. And having it tracked and recognized and all that good stuff. But here's the thing. So I think that's amazing. But here's the odd thing that I noticed is you got your plaque in the mail on my birthday. So I just wanted to point that out. January 6th. At least that's what your post was tagged, and you had a little comment on there. So anyway, happy birthday to me. You got your 2 Comma Club award. Okay, let's get down to the brass tacks here. So the question obviously that I want to start off with is, what's the one thing that you're going to change or that you suggest we change in order to transform our life and our business in 2021? Again, 2020 has been an interesting year, ups, downs, happy, sad, bad, all the different kinds of, it's full range of crazy stuff. So as we look forward to 2021 with your experience and your background, what are you going to do, or what do you suggest we do in our lives and our business to really create transformation? So let's just start there.
Absolutely. So the biggest thing that I recommend in 2021 is really creating an authentic connection and relationship with your audience, with your market on video. People, really resonate when they see and they hear you talking about what it is that you solve, what it is you help people with. Now, that can be whether you're, coach, consultant, course creator, and you kind of are somebody who's helping people, or even if you have a product or a service or something that is more, that you sell, right? Connecting the story and the person behind it, and really having that authenticity in your advertising, in your social media, in all of your posts. And so, for me, it's going to, really be emphasizing everything that I'm doing with video. I'm actually going to be building out more of my personal brand YouTube channel, which I've been, really building back up. So obviously, when you heard, Josh was talking about earlier, my app find channel, right, which is reviewing apps and all of that. That's kind of like, that's more of like a brand. But I'm also going to be building out more of my personal, Aleric YouTube channel, where I, want to have that deeper, closer connection with all the people that follow me that I can help and I can impact. But the big thing that I have done up until this point too is I've actually established that connection with people on video using YouTube ads. And so, 2021 is really the year of YouTube ads. I know that it is. We've been really building up to this, crescendo of, YouTube advertising. And so one of the reasons, and I'm sure we're going to dive into it a lot more, one of the reasons that I believe so strongly in it, it's not because, it basically obviously is getting so much, better returns right now. Right now, it's a blue ocean. So it's a great time to get in right now. That's why 2021 is the year, versus Facebook's very much a red ocean. Everybody's competing. YouTube's a blue ocean, but it's not always going to be a blue ocean. I know that, right? That's why you got to get in now. But the thing that YouTube will always have is it is a video-based platform that has intent. So people are looking up on YouTube, they're trying to solve their problem, right? Whether it's how to grow my business, like what mindset should I have? Maybe they're trying to lose weight, right? Get fit, whatever it happens to be that they're looking up on YouTube, you can run a video in front of that. And it's not just, a simple image or, on Facebook, there are some authentic videos, but there's also a lot of just attention grabbing because you have to stop people's thumbs. And so it's this random, video or thing. And it's all these kind of tactics to get people to pay attention, but it's not actually providing that much value. What I love is having a value first, authentic video ad on YouTube. And that's what we teach all of our clients as well. Right. So, we do have some clients that have done some of the flashy stuff because obviously, you can run our targeting with that. But what I love to teach our clients is, get in front of people, hook them, capture their attention, let them know that you can solve their problem, then give them value on the ad. Actually create an authentic, connection and relationship on the ad so that they get to know you, they get to know your brand, they get to know what you're about. And also they have a couple of those aha moments or golden nuggets on the ad. Think about, what you're building when you actually provide value, not just deep into your funnel or just to clients. Obviously, people already know like value has been creeping, further and further closer to the beginning of your funnel more and more. I'm sure you've talked about this too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Obviously, everybody knows you shouldn't only provide value to clients, right? And so they provide it on the webinar or on a call, a consultation, whatever it is. And then now more and more value is being provided on the landing pages, information about it. But really, you got to take that all the way back to the ads, to the first thing that somebody sees. Because if they see you and you're letting them know, hey, if you have this problem, here's a couple things to think about. And we've had, numerous examples of this, right? But if you can give somebody a reframe, whether it's on their business, their mindset, or, on health and fitness, you can give them, or anywhere in between, if you can give them those golden nuggets that show them, wait a second, I didn't think about it that way. And you have that authentic relationship, you actually are being seen as the expert on the ad, they are much more likely to then go and sign up for a webinar, a masterclass, a training, your email list, whatever that next step is. And then from there, they're much more likely to actually watch and show up and then, get on a call or go to a purchase page and then, become a client. And so starting that authentic video-based relationship where you're talking to the person on the other, end of the screen, I think is the biggest thing that you can change in 2021. For me, since I've already done a lot of that, I'm actually implementing, more of the YouTube channel to actually have more consistency behind my interaction. But, the first step is just to start running these video-based ads and just to, start somewhere with video advertising.
So holy cow, you just dumped a gold nugget bombshell on us through that little blurb there. There's a lot of stuff in there. So I want to unpack some of it really quick and just ask some follow-up questions because really you just gave us like, the golden goose. So let's look at this. So the first thing you talked about is this connect with them through story. And I wonder if you could talk for just a minute, because story, like I've heard people tell a story. It's like if you ever watched Finding Nemo, and at the beginning of it, he's trying to tell the joke, right? And he's like, the two fish are like, you're not very funny for a clownfish, right? It's like he just bombs the story. It's horrible. Like it's not even remotely funny. And so not everybody can tell a good story. There's got to be structure or process behind story that makes a good story that can connect and be authentic. So can you talk to that for just a minute? Because you're amazing at stories. So share some of that real quick if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I love to think about is, looking at it from two angles. What is the information that you need to, get across to somebody? What do they need to hear? And then how is a way that you can make it framed in a very interesting way, in a way that they're actually going to pay attention and absorb. But also it doesn't have unnecessary fluff, right? And so I'm not a major fan, of like, the fancy car, all the stuff in the background that doesn't necessarily, unless that is the story, right? Doesn't necessarily add to it. And in some cases it does. But, in general, what I love to do is craft, okay, what am I going to say? What is that message? And then how can I build around it? So I'll actually give a great example. One of my, one of the favorite kind of stories and hooks that I built around, one of actually not only a client, but somebody, that I actually use myself, Belden Colme, he helped me, lose a lot of weight kind of with nutritional fitness. So a couple of years ago, I was like, 40, 50 pounds heavier than I am now, which is kind of funny, crazy to think about. But,
what is it? Belden, what? Tell me his name again.
Belden Colme. And his, I believe it's called nutritional fitness. And I think at the time was also like the N90 method. But basically he's just a fantastic, one of the most genuine, awesome people. And he was also a client of ours as well. And, around that, so I was helping him with his YouTube ads, and he had his record, his highest month in like 10 years when he turned on YouTube ads. And at the same time, obviously, I lost like, almost 50 pounds, working with him. And gotten much better, shape. And so, honestly, I was like, okay, I knew with him too, what the aha moment was for me. And I knew what I could incorporate into the ad. And so the ad that we ended up creating that did so well too. And mind you, I think that month that he had his first ever $50,000 month, which was game changing for him, right? It was the highest he had 10 years. I think he spent like $3,000 or $3,200 on that, about $100 a day on ads. Wow. So, basically the hook that worked so well for him was, the biggest misconception that everybody has is that a calorie is a calorie, that eating this, this 500 calories of pizza is the same of this 500 calories of salad. But let me ask you a question. This is 2,000 calories of oil. Is it nutritionally, valuable? Is this the same as eating 2,000 calories of something else?
Yeah.
No, it's not, right? And so if you've established that 2,000 calories of oil is different than 2,000 calories of other pieces of food, then why do people believe that 500, or 2,000 calories worth of pizza is the same as that of salad? So now we can start talking, and you can see, boom, if you can make that shift in somebody's mind, incredible. And that was an aha moment for me, because obviously I know that oil isn't the same, and that's 2,000 calories doesn't have the same nutritional value, right? But I was thinking like, okay, X amount of calories of pizza, X amount of calories of, of other things. And so there's these different nutrients and stuff. And obviously, some of the people listening here would be surprised that I had, a couple of years ago had that, epiphany. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that need that. They need to hear that. And so when we crafted that as an ad, it's one of those things, if you hear somebody say that, because that's the type of thing that maybe you reserve, most people would reserve for down the funnel. And like with him, we just happened to have that in a conversation because we met up in a mastermind at one point, before I started working with him, and then he worked with me. But I'm like, you need to say this as the first thing that you tell people, because that's what sold me on it. and you know, transform my life. And I'm like, if we can get these words in front of more people, it's going to transform more other people's lives as well.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is the story is not necessarily about the flash and the glitter, or maybe even the dialogue or whatever it is, but really it's about what is that, how fast can you get somebody to that aha moment, giving them enough value that they're like, oh, I get it, right? It's like when I had someone explain to me electricity once, which I'm going to get wrong, but like volts and ohms and whatever, and it's like a pipe and water running through it. And see, I still get it wrong, but at least I have an idea, like, oh, you know, the flow and the volume, and so I'm getting close to understanding, even though I didn't remember it all. But I hear what you're saying in terms of the story is about, you know, being able to communicate in a way that is generous, sincere, but creates an aha moment for people so you can begin a new conversation, right?
Exactly. And focusing on the story, because we could have focused on all the people he had helped them lose, you know, and even more than just me, like he had helped tons of people lose like 100+ pounds, 150, all these different things. But the thing is, it doesn't give anybody an aha moment. How do people know it's different? He starts out by saying everything you've learned about calories is wrong. And, you know, we're going to break that, you know, those myths. And then he gets into the story, and there's actually a few different hooks that then lead into that same story and that we still tested. And it's so different. It's a different approach, but that's the approach that you need to take, you know, especially as we go into 2021 here, right? That's the approach you need to take, is that authentic approach where you're also teaching people, but you're teaching people in a fun way. You're telling a story. It makes sense, right? It's not just kind of dry, right? And you're actually backing it up a little bit too. And that is how to make that connection and get people to see you as the expert. Because if they can see you as the expert on the ad, I mean, you've already won throughout the rest of it. They're going to go through the rest of your funnel. You know, that's the process. Yeah.
Okay. So little sidebar conversation, because I can already see, you know, I have different people in my world. I'm sure you've seen this as well, but you know, some people are just terrified of the camera, right? And so even though you might have a one-on-one conversation with them, and you're like, oh, they're the nicest person in the world, just like, oh, I love this person, and then you put a camera in front of them, and they're like, oh, I don't know what to say. You know, they freak out. So really quick, because I got a bunch of other tactical stuff that I wanted to dive in with you, but I wanted to resolve this issue right now, because you're talking about YouTube. And YouTube's video, man, and that freaks some people out. So any best practices you've got for like chilling and just being natural? Because one thing I love about your videos is, man, I feel like when I watch your videos, I'm like, oh, Aleric and I are best buddies. Like, we already know each other, and I totally get who you are. You can just see that you're not putting on pretenses. So you've got to have a way for doing that. So any suggestions there?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is really just to be, you know, yourself and be natural and be authentic, you know, on camera. And everybody's going to have that different style that they have. And, you know, I have, you know, a certain style, but other people are going to have their own style as well. And so what I have found is people overcomplicate it. They, you know, want to hire huge, you know, production studios, you know, kind of the big lights and big cameras and all of that. When all you really need is you've got an incredible, you know, camera on, you know, on your phone or on like a standard DSLR. You hook it up either with, you know, the simplest is you take your you know, modern smartphone that has a great camera, you hook it up with a gimbal, and then you record yourself, or you have somebody else record it. Or you go one level up, right? Which is you have like the DSLR camera. You might have a, you know, gimbal for that. But you don't need a massive setup in order to create an authentic ad. Because think about it, on YouTube, right? People are watching videos that have that same style. People are recording themselves either on the phone with a gimbal, or on, you know, like a DSLR camera, right, with a little bit of a better audio setup. You know, that's kind of that next level. That's what we at a certain point will recommend. But even just to start off, you know, you could start off with your phone and like $100 gimbal, which is a tool that stabilizes your phone, so it makes it not shake up and down. And then there's a couple different ways you could do a mic, but you can even use AirPods or whatever. Those will actually work well. We got clients who do that. And then just talk, be natural. You know, you have to go through, you know, a format. There's a hook, educate, call to action. We can, you know, obviously break that, you know, dive deeper into that if you want. But, you know, basically being natural on camera is actually going to attract more people. Because think about this, right? What have you been trained like all your life to tune out, right? If you're watching, you know, and you're watching like this overly produced commercial, you've been tuned, whether it's on TV, to go and grab a snack. If it's on YouTube, to, you know, the Geico commercial comes on, to skip out, you know, when can I skip? But it feels natural, right? And somebody's coming on, they're saying, and they're basically saying everything you've learned about nutrition is wrong. Or they're saying, what if you could, one of my hooks, what if you could ethically hijack your competitor's traffic and send it your own funnel on YouTube? And so if you have these different hooks, it's like, wait a second, this is interesting. It's not overly produced. It's you talking, in front of the camera. That's what's going to pull people in. And it feels like natural YouTube content. Because most YouTube content is not filmed in a studio. Most YouTube content is filmed much more naturally, in front of a camera, and that's what you're able to do. And the other thing too is YouTube actually works in your favor. You only pay if somebody watches, a certain portion of the video. So typically that's, it only pay if somebody watches more than 30 seconds of that ad. So you can skip it between 5, 20, 29 seconds, and then you don't pay for that. You only pay if they actually watch more of the ad. That's how the TrueView ads work. Get that question a lot. People are like, oh, I skip a ton of ads. Well, the advertiser is actually not paying for that if you wait for it to count down, you skip it. You actually have to watch a certain threshold, which usually is like 30 seconds or more, in order to trigger that payment per view. And so if people aren't interested in what you have to say, they'll just skip it. No big deal. They just skip it. So that's, there's less pressure there. And then the final thing is I always tell people to, film a draft and then see how it comes out. And, usually when there's less pressure, it actually turns out better. Go through the whole process, but don't think that you're even going to upload it. Like this is just, you're just running through the whole thing. Do it until you get it right. That's important. Because if you just say, oh, you're going to do a draft, they just do it once. But like do it until you get it right. And then take that, put it together, and let's see how it looks. And oftentimes it looks really good. Or they're like, wow, that's a lot better than I thought. And even if they do go out and film it again, which does happen, it's kind of like 50-50, go out and film it again. They know, like, wait a second, I did so well here. All I need to do is make better eye contact or add a little bit more energy or whatever it is.
Sure. So I love those suggestions. I mean, the idea of keeping it simple, I've got, I'm just about to upgrade to the 12, but I got an iPhone. I've got a little studio here, and and I run millions of dollars of video and business off of this, right? And I used to have a really expensive, I mean, I definitely could upgrade to a better camera. I'm not saying that I couldn't, but I used to have a very expensive, I don't know, I think I spent $5,000 or $6,000 on it in the day camera. And when I got this 11 Pro, I looked at, my videographer was like, your 11's actually capturing better footage than your old, digital. I was like, so I let my son sell it on eBay and I just switched to the phones. But, so keeping it super simple, I think is important. I also love your recommendation of, getting it right. So you're hitting your key talking points, and then just running a draft and being like, okay, no one's ever going to see this. I'm just going to do it. And, giving yourself permission to just be you is super powerful. Love that. Okay, so I want to key off something you just said where you're like, well, maybe you can go back and things like eye contact or, your energy or whatever it is. Talk about that for just a minute. I mean, again, we're looking at YouTube ads and video. And so what makes, I don't know how else to say it, but like good stage presence, good aura, good connectivity. Because you said it's really important. You started off saying it's really important to tell the right story and then to make a personal connection. And so what does that look like? How does that show up? What tips and tricks can you give us on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of my favorite other things to say is feel like you're talking, you're explaining and you're recording a video, to a friend or to somebody that's trying to learn, like, okay, what is it you do that's all about? But somebody who is close to you, maybe they don't understand it that much, or maybe you've explained it in the past, right? And you're going into that. And just pretend that you're having that conversation. So for instance, when, we're kind of keep going back to this example, but, with Belden, when we're doing kind of that type of ad, I don't know if I actually told him this, but what I would have told him, if he asked would be, like he explained it to me when we, grabbed food at a mastermind, right? We were talking about this, like explain that, but to the camera. Now, the thing is if you start, so there's the basic and then there's also the more advanced. So if you want to go a little more advanced and you want to tweak like how you're showing up on camera to absolutely be the best, like it's just an embellished version of you. So again, don't go out of who you are, but you want to go to your most like energized, primed state. Obviously people like, familiar with like Tony Robbins and like, all kinds of different stuff, right? It's like, go to that kind of state where it's you, it's still you, it's authentically you, but it's you, a lot more energized, a lot more primed, like ready to go. And essentially, you know, that is what's going to show up best on camera, because the camera does take a little bit of energy away. So if you're on camera, it's going to reduce some of that energy. Now, again, it's better to do something than to overly worry about this. So this is phase 2. This is
an advanced version, right?
Exactly. And it's just to kind of show up with that extra energy. And also to film, like, have your camera, your gimbal ready and film when you're feeling really great, you know.
Ooh,
like
love that.
It's a good opportunity.
Okay, so that might have been worth the price of admission right there. You know, just have that stuff ready and film. You know, I keep notes by my bed, and so sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh, that's a brilliant idea, and I jot stuff down. I think that's common among lots of people. But your idea of taking that and, you know, just, hey, having your selfie stick, having your gimbal, having something around so that when you're in the mood, then you can do it. I've got you can't see it very good, but I've got about 3 acres of forest, some pretty thick, heavy wooded forest back here on my property. And we've cut trails through there, and I love walking through. And sometimes I'll be walking along like, oh, I just had this epiphany, and I'll literally grab my phone. I wouldn't even have my gimbal or anything. I'll be just like, hey guys, I just had this thing, blah, 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 blah. And everyone comments on those better than all my other. I'm like, why do I even worry about the produced stuff? Anyway, I digress, but just like, So, and one of the things I want to point out that I noticed you do it, if I can just add to this conversation, where you say about, you know, but with a little bit more energy. The first ad that I saw of you was you basically like this, and you had your big TV there, and you say, you know, YouTube ads outperform Facebook ads every time. I'm probably not doing a good imitation, right? But you're like, oh, and I'm also noticing right here on this conversation, one of the things I love about what you do, and I think makes it so compelling, is that a lot of times I see people doing YouTube ads, and they're like, hi, how you doing? And sometimes they get a little hand motion involved, right? And you're like this 3-dimensional experience. You're into the camera, you're back out, your voice is high, and then it's down low, and then you're like, oh, and you know, and you're there's so much motion movement. It's compelling. It's like, oh, I want to keep listening to this guy. And I see a lot of people that are just like, just stiff, like they're on the Rocker Gibraltar and they're not moving. Like, okay, move, people, move. So very good. I love that insight. Okay, let's go back to, I got my notes here. I'm like, oh, I got 4 pages of notes already on you, Aleric. So just so you know. Okay, you talked about, and you've touched on this a little bit, but you talked about adding the value and sort of that aha moment that it creates. And you know, a lot of people really struggle finding, you know, some people call it the USP or the hook or whatever that value proposition is. There's a lot, you know, different ways that people talk about this, but you just rolled off a number of things just off the top of your head. And I wonder if you have sort of a process or formula for diving into and creating either that hook or that value add statement, that aha moment, as you were.
I love it. That's a great question, because that's something I really spend a lot of time focusing on, because the script and what you say is so important. That's a major part of our, you know, obviously, you know, what we do at Outreach, right, is, you know, we help people with the actual YouTube ads and targeting, but a big part of it is actually the video. You know, what are you going to say on the video? And that's, I think, what a lot of people get wrong. And even just in general in the advertising is there's a lot of this like, oh, just send us what you have and then we'll run it. You know, that's not, you know, or you should run it or whatever. Like, that's not the best strategy. The best strategy is, you know, to actually learn how to craft like a script that has all these right points. And that's what I want to break down, is like what we found to be kind of that core script that works so well, because it's really important what you say. And so, you know, I've actually developed, like you mentioned, what's the process? We've got, you know, multiple copywriters on our team that work with, you know, our clients, right? And we're basically, you know, going in and essentially extracting from them. And we're really just asking them several key questions. So one big question that you want to ask yourself is, you know, what is the big, you know, if you had to distill it down into like 3 keys, what are the 3 big aha moment keys that your, you know, business provides and offers, right? And before you even try and like turn it into certain language, like for instance, again, we'll go back and we'll do 2 examples. We'll do mine, and then we'll also do Belden's, so you can get like a sense of like, mine's kind of more of a business, his is more of like, you know, the consumer. And so for me, you know, obviously that YouTube ads beat Facebook ads. So that's kind of the hook, right? So that's the initial part that we're talking about. But then one of the components is you only pay for YouTube ads if somebody watches more than 30 seconds, and it's intent based. So that means that if you have people looking this up, and then you're only paying if they're actually interested, you're only paying for people that are interested, versus on Facebook, you're paying for every eyeball, whether they, even look at it for more than 2 seconds or not.
Yeah, can I pause you there for just a minute? Because I want to make a clarification that is so super important right here. So you mentioned the phrase intent-based a couple times. By the way, we're going to put it, we're going to make sure we come back to this script that you're talking about in the questions, but just give me a 30-second blurb on intent-based, and I would call it community-based or just browsing-based environment inside of Facebook. What's the difference there in terms of the psychology and the ad and the hook?
Exactly. So on Facebook, people are just scrolling almost, most of the time, honestly, just to have a little bit of a break, to take time away from whatever they're doing. We've all done it. I've done it. Everybody's done it. You're just scrolling on Facebook. You're seeing what's next. And the problem with that is people aren't actively researching for something. So again, I'm not saying Facebook ads don't work, because we know that they can work. They're all reliant on an algorithm, right? The algorithm determines when, you show up, when people are there. But then the other thing is, even if they are interested, they're the right person, oftentimes it's not the right time. Are they actually going to sign up and watch a webinar? So I'll give a couple examples. I do want to, we'll loop back in a second.
We'll come back. I got my notes here. We're not losing it. I'm there.
We'll close the loop up. But I'll give a perfect example where I've talked with different, advertisers, different people, and they say that, that webinars are dead. Obviously, we all know that's not the case. But the problem is the platform. People are running Facebook ads to webinars, and because costs are going up, and because there's so many people advertising, there's so many webinars on Facebook. But the biggest thing is timing. When people click on it, right, they go there and they have low show up rates. I've been talking with people, they're excited about a 25-30% show up rate, which, obviously isn't that great. But for Facebook, they're like, this is great. On YouTube, and I'll explain why in a second, but there's a scientific reason for this. The average show up rate for us and our clients, and like we have hundreds, over 1,000 clients, and between us and our clients, the show up rate is between 50 and 60% on every hour on the hour webinar. Ours is around 55, 56%, and our average watch time on an hour and 8-minute long webinar, on our original webinar, is between 51 and 53 minutes. It's about 51 right now, is 53, kind of a little bit, but basically in that 50-minute range, 50. Out of an hour and 8, where we have the actual offer to book a call with our team at 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
so more, so you're getting an astonishing show up rate, and they're sticking through. Yeah,
exactly. And why is that happening? So people are like, that's crazy. And the fact that we're seeing that across our clients, and we tell again, you can, and we have clients that do really well with VSLs, but the question is, if you could get somebody to watch a 20-minute training or an hour-long webinar, which would you rather have? You'd rather have the webinar. That's why the vast majority, basically all we're running for the most part is webinars. We got a couple bottom funnel, mid funnel, VSL mini training, but mostly all webinars, is because you want that attention. And so the people that are on Facebook, that are running to VSL, it's not because VSLs are better. It's because that's unfortunately where, you need to go with some of that traffic. And so, the people haven't changed. It's the platform. Versus on YouTube, people are actually searching right now. They're trying to figure out right now, how to scale my business, how to use YouTube ads, like we teach, right? Whether it's something around, mindset or growth, or it's how to lose weight or how to get fit, right? If you have a video and they're literally typing in how to lose weight, and then all of a sudden they see Belden's video and it gives them an aha moment, they're signing up for that webinar and they are watching that webinar.
You're watching. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it. And they're on a platform that's they literally came there to watch a video. That's why they're there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it.
Exactly.
Those show up rates and stick rates, and you didn't talk about conversion rates, but I'm going to assume, since you've got over 30 employees and 1,000 clients, that your conversion rates are probably okay as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess that it converts. So good.
Exactly. And the other thing, it's not just converting because more people watch and they stay longer. You are can, you need multiple touch points. We're actually converting people too, because the ad is actually educating them as well.
Yeah.
That in of itself is a piece of value. I hate when people refer to it as, quote unquote traffic, right? It's not traffic.
Right.
It's the first touch point you have with a potential client, a potential, customer in your business. So educating at each stage is so valuable.
I love it. And you didn't say this word, but I'm gonna interject an idea there. You're actually, the process of educating is actually a process of the combination, based on what we talked about so far, of both connecting with people. So you're emotionally connecting, you're creating that emotional connectivity there, and you're establishing your expert status or your authentic guru status, or whatever you want to call it. In other words, you're like, okay, I have this aha moment. You can trust me, you can like me, we can be buddies, and I can serve you. I can help with your needs. I can fulfill whatever it is you're looking for. I got the solution. I got the cookie for you. And I think so it's not just like, I don't think what you're saying, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you say education at each step of the line, I don't think we're like school teachers, like, 2 + 2 is 4. I think what we're doing is we're giving people the insights they need to move forward towards their solution. Because look, especially on YouTube, if they're intent-based, they're at a certain spot in their life and they want to get somewhere else. They're not happy. They're like, I really need to move. And so you're saying, look, let's just start on the journey together. I love your approach. I'm reflecting it back to you because I'm having epiphanies as we're sitting here talking. So it's fabulous. Okay. Anything else on the intent-based versus community-based or mindless scroll-based?
Yeah, exactly. So it basically, just to summarize, just because we obviously talked a lot there, it's like the intent is what people are trying to figure out and looking up now versus just, a pattern interrupt and, stopping people kind of as they're scrolling, right? And so again, doesn't mean it doesn't work over here, but you're putting all of your faith in an algorithm versus going over here. You're actually choosing, when you show up to people that are actually interested, they're in the learner's mindset, they're trying to get value. You're providing some value on the ad. So I do like that better than education, value, right? So providing some value on the ad and insights on the ad, and then you're getting them to go through each step of the funnel and process. And they're going to go through that because they know there's additional insights and value they'll receive along the way.
Unbelievable. Okay. So, all right. I'm watching the time here. Aleric, I think you and I could jam for hours because I can tell we're both sort of geeked out about the psychology behind this and connecting with people and serving people, which I knew this was going to be a blockbuster interview. So let's go back. Let's go back and talk about, so we were talking about being able to connect with people and how to find that value in that aha moment. You said, there's certain, our copywriters, our team asks specific questions to extract things out of people. What are the 3 big things? And then you were talking about, your stuff, and then you're going to give another example. So pick back up there where we left off, and let's finish the conversation about what kinds of questions we need to ask and how can we figure out what is the value that we're offering so that we can educate people in that way.
Exactly. So what you want to do is you want to, figure out, okay, what are those 3 big things, those big insights of value that you can provide. You don't have to do all 3 of them, but just kind of as a thought exercise. And then what's the major problem that you're solving, right, with these insights? And so the problem turns into your hook, and then the insights turn into your educate or value or insights kind of section. And then from there, you have the call to action at the end. Call to action is the most self-explanatory, make it very simple. Right. What's the next step? And so in terms of your hook, I'll give a few different examples because it's really important, to come up with multiple hooks. You never know which one's going to work best. And so there's a couple that, we've given for myself. So one is very much kind of like the bold statement, us versus them, get them watching, oh, wow, how is he going to back this up?
Right.
YouTube ads beat Facebook ads every time. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why, and then going into it, talking about, Facebook ad costs rising, here's YouTube, and then, we educate. And then another one that I've used, so these are my top 2 hooks, that one. And then the other one is, what if you could ethically hijack your competitor's traffic and send it directly into your own funnel? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do just that using targeted YouTube video ads. So that's more of like a curiosity hook. So that's a curiosity, excitement. The other one is very much kind of like a little bit of a divisive, it's a bold statement. But then I go in and I start backing it up, and again, some people, that's gonna a couple people are not gonna agree with that. That's fine.
Sure.
But the people that do watch it and they hear what I have to say, they're gonna be much more ingrained because I had that, kind of us versus them in the marketing, which is so important. And so there's those two different elements. I already gave the example, kind of Belden's ad. That was more of like the insights and education, but the hook would go, and I don't know the exact verbiage, so forgive me if I don't get it perfect. But we'll go along the lines of, if you're trying to lose weight, forget everything you've ever heard about calories because it's wrong. Let me show you this, and then it'd be something
like the jar of oil. Yeah,
exactly. Is this the same as this? Well, we've established that, so why is pizza the same as this now? And then it opens them up to learning more. And another great example too is and actually this is an example even outside of kind of like coaching and stuff. So selling insurance, for specifically, I forget the exact term of it. I don't think it was life insurance with living benefits, right? I think it was an insurance agent looking to sell this. They had a insurance company, right? Life insurance with living benefits. And so and the hook goes along the lines of this. Is your life insurance really death insurance? Think about this. What happens if you get in a serious accident but you don't die? Nothing. Right. Why should you have to choose between your death and your family's financial future? Oh, boom! You just go out, and people, if they're listening, they're like, "What?" And so you just go right off the bat. And that was one of the ones that I wrote, and I'm just, because we've got copywriters now. I'm giving a couple of examples, the ones that I'm really proud of. But that's, it's just like if you hear that, you can't unhear it. And that's the kind of hook that I love. Same thing with the YouTube beats Facebook. If you're a good marketer or, funnel person, you're going to be watching the rest of that ad, because you're going to want to hear what I have to say. And so it's that exact same thing. It's that thought process of, how can you get them to stay because you say something and people know it makes sense and they know they want to hear more. And then you actually provide insights. You back it up, because a big mistake that people make here, they don't back it up. What they do is they make this bold thing, and then they say, okay, go sign up for my webinar and we'll show you how.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you get people and then you just drop right down. It's like a roller coaster, right? Versus actually, providing some of those insights. Then you get people on a high when they go to your page and they're like, if I've already learned this, what are they going to show on the webinar? Now, one tip I will say is you do want to continue to deliver on the webinar. It's important. You don't want to accidentally let people down on there. But assuming that that's the case, you provide a lot of value here, and people have to show up, and that's how you have such a big, a big conversion. And then the last one, just to finalize, so is that hook, those big hooks, providing those insights and those aha moments, but not how, it's what, right? So notice that in what I'm talking about with YouTube ads, I don't teach people how to use YouTube ads. I'm not educating them on how to actually set it up, or really any of that. I'm just giving them the aha moments. Same thing with Belden. He's not actually teaching them what they should eat. Like that's in his program, or that's in some in this webinar, some in his program, his book, all that stuff. Right. But he's giving them the aha moments to know that they need to make a change, and enough so that they can start to put a couple of the pieces together, but they don't have the full picture. There's pieces that are missing that you're going to be able to provide. And then the call to actions at the end. Exactly.
And then the call. And we could dive into some of those elements, and which we'll maybe save for another interview for another day, because or they can just buy your program and get all the secrets, right? That's the easiest way to solve that problem. So, all right, I've been taking notes. And I like to tell people, I'm gonna have you quiz me now. Okay, so here's the quiz. I'm gonna see, this is the pop quiz for Joshua for the day. And what I did is I just jotted down some of the key elements, because you started off saying, look, the number one thing that we can do is to do ads, YouTube ads, a video, right? And that YouTube is blue ocean. It might not always be, but it is now. And there's transformational magic in building your business. And I'm just going to put in a side caveat. There is something refining about you personally when you got to get in front of video. You got to think through your hooks. You got to really think through your value. What's the structure of the video? And so there's actually, for me, there's sort of this, cool personal growth sort of thing that goes on. Well, that's like a side ancillary thing, but this transformation of our businesses using video. So here we go. I'm gonna see if I've got the right elements in a good order for a framework that I think people can use as sort of a summary based on what we've done. And again, so you're the master here. You're the master here. So you tell me if I get this wrong. Okay. So the number one thing that I noticed was just being willing to have even just a little bit of confidence in yourself. And you've talked about that over and over again. I think that, with somebody to think about doing a video, they've got to just take a deep breath, look in the mirror and go, okay, I can do this. So a sense of self-confidence and self-worth, I think, is really important. Number two, once you've got that, being able to establish through video a personal connection with story. And you talked about story in a number of different ways, but that's sort of that compelling hook plus, the offer. What is that? And how are we educating people and moving them on that journey? So I think that was number two, is creating that, that personal connection with the story. Closely related to that, number three I've got here is establishing those aha moments. So digging in, finding them out. When you said your thing about the insurance, right? You're actually buying death insurance.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think I know we sort of told people they got to move and be a little more energetic, but honestly, I think that is so powerful a concept. When you get the concept right, you literally you could probably do okay conversions just standing there like, look, don't buy death insurance, right? And it'd be like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I'm dying, and so the concept's so powerful that it kind of eclipses some of the other stuff. Now, it's better if you combine that with proper delivery and the right structure and the formatting, but I think that if you get those aha moments down, you've won like 80% of the battle. I mean, I don't know exactly what the ratio is there, but all the examples you've given have been so powerful. Okay, so the other thing that you mentioned, and we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but this is what I would count as where am I at, number 4, is to create a differential. And I know this goes along with the aha moment, but I think it's important to help our listeners recognize that they bring something unique to the table and powerful, and they should highlight that. And video is the best way to do that, right? I think so. Okay, and so along those lines, number 6 is to be yourself. Be yourself in front of the camera. Be yourself in your marketing. Be yourself in your messaging. Be genuine. You've illustrated that with your amazing messages that you put out, your video. The disclosure of, hey, we didn't have a record break in your article. You kind of were self-facing there, and it was just beautiful. Next one, number 6, and then I just got one more after this. And number 6 is to simplify. So as you're talking and you're on the camera, simplify that down, simplify equipment, simplify the message. I love the example of you on the having lunch with your friend. I just spaces the name. Sorry, Belden. Belden. Yeah. Having a conversation with Belden and simplifying that down to just this one thing, like, hey, not all calories are the same. Like this thing of oil is not the same as this thing of salad. Sorry, it's not the same. And then the last thing is, and I think this is inherent, so I'd kind of box this around our little framework here over everything. The last one is get started. You mentioned that a couple different times through our interview, but it's like, look, just begin, get started, because there's going to be a bit of a learning curve and you'll feel a little uncomfortable. So right now is the best time to get started. So just take action and move forward. So there's my 7-point framework from what we've talked about here. How did I do? Did I get a?
I love it. I love that it's built into a framework, and that was perfect each step of the way. So I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. So 2 things before we sign off here. Number 1 is I'm going to guess that after watching this, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I got to dive into the blue ocean right now. Like, where do I start? How do I begin? And they might not be, freaking out like that, but I'm freaking out. So because I'm really loving what you're talking about here. So where do we go? What do we do? Do you have any other additional resources that we can share with everybody? And where do they kind of learn more about, I don't know if you have training courses. I know you've got, you do stuff for clients, and I think you have a whole range of things. So just, I don't know, where would be a next step for somebody to go after having gone through this session with you?
Absolutely. So I have, a variety of different resources, and I actually put together a page just for, everybody who's watching, listening to this. If you go to adoutreach.com, that's ADOUTREACH, adoutreach.com / gift. You'll actually see, you know, a variety of different gifts that I have for you. Just a video kind of thank you for watching. And but also, you know, I put together, you know, a webinar on YouTube ads. And again, like the thing is, I wouldn't have people watching, you know, 50 minutes, an hour, 8 long minute webinar if I wasn't dropping value at each stage. So you know that's what I do, value first. I also have, but we didn't even touch on this. It's gonna be a whole nother, and I would love to, you know, do something like this whole other thing. Omnipresent retargeting webinar. Because once you bring in the leads, you got to retarget them everywhere. And so, you know, that's another big thing that I've really been pushing throughout this year. And we're helping our clients with, you know, over the course of this next year as well. And, you know, and then there's also a link there to our Facebook group, YouTube Ads for Entrepreneurs. I'm constantly posting value. I'm doing those updates too. That's kind of where I post a little bit more personally. I do share some of these things, you know, through my email list as well. But that's where you can kind of connect. You know, you can see those memos and updates. And I try to be, you know, hey, here's how the month went. Here's the lessons I learned. You know, here's what I've discovered, and share it with other people, because that's how I've, you know, grown, is from learning and following mentors and, you know, listening to podcasts, reading books, you know, doing all these things. So I want to give back as well. And then finally, if you do feel, if you're like, Aleric, everything has been resonating, 2021, you know, year of YouTube ads, I'm going to go in. You can go to adoutreach.com/apply, schedule a strategy call with our team. You know, again, we provide value first on these calls as well. And so it's like a 45-minute, it's one of our top advisors, YouTube ads advisors will get on, and they'll map out what it looks like. So we do have a few different programs based on what, you know, you're a good fit for. And so if you get on that call, we'll map it out, and we'll show you how you can implement YouTube ads.
Awesome. So the adoutreach.com/gift, where you've got a bunch of goodies for us. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you. And then I think you also mentioned adoutreach.com/apply. So if anybody's like, okay, let's really dig in and start figuring that out. And by the way, if you don't know already, Aleric and his team are going to provide amazing value. I mean, look at what we've done in the last 50 minutes, 45 minutes here together. He's just poured stuff out on you. So you can be sure that that's only going to continue. And then I think you also mentioned that there was a Facebook group, so we can get in there. And YouTube for Entrepreneurs, I think, is what it was the name of one of the group or something, right? Okay, cool.
Exactly. YouTube Ads for Entrepreneurs. I should also, you know, because we're going into 2021, also say, if you look me up on YouTube, Aleric Heck, I'm really building a lot of additional content on our organic YouTube channel as well. That is a big question people ask. You don't need a major organic channel to scale up your YouTube ads. You don't even need to have any public videos. But obviously I want to continue to provide value, you know, so similar to the Facebook group, we're also, you know, growing the YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. So last question for you. So we've been through a lot of stuff, and I always like to ask, you know, is there something that I missed? Like, you know, we're talking about having one major thing shift. I think that if you know, like, I think about my business, like if I nailed all my YouTube channel stuff and my YouTube ads, then it literally would be transformational for my business. Just that one thing that I can do. So I love that. But I don't know. So maybe I missed something in our conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to share, or a question I should have asked you and then you want to answer it? Does anything come to mind that we can kind of sign off with here?
The biggest thing is, you know, and obviously YouTube ads, that's what we want to build into the element, and also being authentic, getting in front of people. But, you know, the next level that you can take it to, and I'm sure we're going to be continuing this conversation, but omnipresent retargeting. Again, that's like a whole hour and a half long, interview or training in of itself. But really, you know, just to plant the seeds, you got to start here with bringing people in, educating on the initial ads. But once you have all these people in here, I'll leave, you know, people with kind of this metaphor here. Let's say you have a gigantic microwave. You have all these leads, they're popcorn kernels that you put in. The microwave is your omnipresent retargeting machine. And yes, those are YouTube retargeting ads, but they're also Facebook, LinkedIn, AdRoll, Twitter, Pinterest, everywhere. You know, retargeting people everywhere and providing value in your retargeting too. Now, some obviously to get them to book a call, but also other ones, you know, will actually provide value and teach them and get them into, you know, new aha moments, new pieces of content. We've got, as you heard, multiple webinars. So if they watch one but not the other, we'll run the other one to them. And so basically building this ecosystem where you stay omnipresent in front of people, that's something that you want to have in the back of your mind. Again, I would say that it's more important, it's very important to have that authentic YouTube ads, everything we talked about here. But planting that seed, once you have that coming in, right, there's ways that you can take all of those people that are coming through and actually, you know, kind of supercharge the whole process, you know, beyond the webinar and your email list and, you know, those things. You can actually start reaching them again and again on your ads.
Wow. So just as a quick shout out to you, you definitely practice what you preach, because I've seen you on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, just like, I can't go anywhere and it's like, oh, here's Aleric again. Okay, great. Actually, I never think that. I think this guy is crushing it. It's amazing. So I love the analogy of the popcorn and the microwave and being omnipresent. It definitely has a major impact on psychology and on results. So very awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much. So again, guys, if you jump onto that adoutreach.com/gift, or if you're ready to get rolling, then you can go to adoutreach.com/apply, and you can check out all the resources that Alec's got there for us. And I just want to say, if we were, I spent a lot of time in live stages, and if we were on a live stage right now and I was interviewing you, we had thousands of people in the audience. Of course, we would all, we'd all stand up and be like, oh, and we'd give you a big round of applause, and there'd be people high-fiving, you'd be running through the audience like, whoa. And so fabulous. Thank you so much for the content today, for the insights, for the strategies you've shared. We just really, really appreciate it. And just keep going out there and crushing it and serving people and changing lives the way you're doing. It's just marvelous to see. So thanks again for being on with me. I appreciate it.
And thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I hope everybody finds it valuable. I was honored to be part of it. So thank you so much.